Hey YouTube, what's going on? Snowflarky's Emos here today with another deck profile. This is my Heroic Challenger deck profile. Heroic Challenger is a pretty cool deck of warrior type monsters that form a level 4 Xyz engine, and it's just a fun, pretty simple to play OTK deck where you summon their big boss monster, which can get a ridiculously high attack stat in the way that it can OTK even through an opponent's monster, and that makes it pretty sick, makes it pretty fun to play. With that said, let's get into the card by card. Starting with our monsters, we are playing 3 copies of a Heroic Challenger Assault Halberd. Assault Halberd is a Cyber Dragon-esque card of the deck. If your opponent controls a monster and you don't, you could special summon this card out of your hand for free. It's got 1800 attack, and of course, if this card attacks a defense position monster, you can inflict piercing damage to your opponent, which is pretty sweet. And when this card inflicts battle damage, you can add a heroic card from your deck to your hand. So in this build, it's mostly just useful as a free body to extend your play. But, if you have to attack with this guy, he's a pretty good one because he can do damage through a defense position monster, and searching a card can give you nice follow-up for your main phase 2 or a future turn. Next up, we are playing 3 copies of Heroic Challenger Thousand Blades. Thousand Blades is a key piece of this deck. It's a 4-star warrior monster that says once per turn, if this card is in attack position, you can discard a heroic card. And now you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except heroic monsters, and if you do, you can special summon a heroic monster from your deck. So what's nice is this is not a hard once per turn, so you can use 1000 blades to get out 1000 blades, and then 1000 blades to get out another 1000 blades, and kind of get them all out of your deck, which is pretty cool. Gives you a lot of materials on your field to summon heroic Xyz monster. And while that does lock you specifically into heroic Xyz, there are lots of heroic Xyz we can go into, and that makes it a pretty good option to have. Now, Heroic Challenger Thousand Blades also has this pretty neat effect that when this card's in your graveyard once per turn, when you take battle damage, you can summon this card into attack position. So that's pretty cool. Gives it a way to help block the board and summon it out after your opponent does some damage to you to give you material for next turn. Next up, we're playing 3 copies of Heroic Challenger Morningstar. This is one of the newer support cards that is just pretty awesome. If you control 2 or more warrior monsters, you could special summon this card from your hand, so that's pretty nice, free extension. And of course, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a heroic spell or trap card from the deck to your hand. Very important, because those cards help us get our OTK. And of course, if this card is in your graveyard, you can pay life point, and your life points are 500 or less, you can special summon this card but negate its effect. So that's pretty nice. There is a mechanic around this deck that's built around getting our life points less at 500 or less, so it's criteria you'll certainly meet. And then you just summon out Challenger from your graveyard. Now you don't get his effects, but at that point you just mostly need him as the body to go into another card. Next up, we got 3 copies of Heroic Challenger Knuckle Sword. Knuckle Sword's pretty cool. If you control a heroic monster except a level 1 monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then if this card is normal or special summon, you can target one other warrior type monster you control with a level, and the level of that monster or this card becomes the level of the other one. So you can take your other Heroic Challenger monsters and make it a 1-star monster, or you can take this guy and make him a 4-star monster essentially. So of course that is pretty cool. And, we have level 1 Xyz, we have level 4 Xyz, and, just the ability to make those is pretty awesome. Next up, I'm playing 1 copy of Heroic Challenger Extra Sword. This is just a 4-star warrior monster. He has a pretty neat effect. An Xyz monster that was summoned using this card as an Xyz material gains this effect. When it is Xyz summoned, it gains 1000 attack, so that's pretty nice. A way to boost our Xyz monsters' attack a little bit, and we'll definitely make use of that. Next, we're playing 1 Heroic Challenger Clasp Sword. This is our other level 1, and when this card is special summoned by the effect of our Heroic Challenger monster, you can add a Heroic Challenger monster from the deck to your hand. So this is a pretty neat card to pull out with 1000 Blades, because then we, of course, get a search for a Heroic Challenger monster, and that can be pretty nice, especially if it's something like Morningstar or Knuckle Sword. Something that we can freely summon, so it's just a good one-off to have and pull out of the deck. Next up, getting out of our Heroic Challenger monsters, we are playing 2 copies of Blue Mountain Butter Spy. So this is a level 4 warrior monster that can't be normal summoned or set, but when you normal summon a warrior monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Can't be used as synchro material, that's fine. The warrior level 4 is good enough for us to run and make good use of. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Just a nice hand trap. A lot of times in this deck, we want to try to go second, and we want to disrupt our opponent enough that we'll be able to play through. Ash Blossom just slows down decks. We discard this card from our hand to stop them from adding a card from the deck to their hand, special summoning from the deck, or sending a card from the deck to the graveyard. All things which so many decks do that this is a good card to have. And last for the monsters, I'm playing 2 copies of Lava Golem. Lava Golem is a pretty useful card in this deck because since we are going second most of the time, we want to have an answer to our opponent's built-up board. If there's monsters that can't be destroyed or monsters that have negates that are going to stop us, we can tribute them off for Lava Golem because it's nice. We tribute 2 of our opponent's monsters to summon this on our opponent's field. And of course, we can put it in attack mode because we can still OTK through it, which is pretty awesome. Now, the biggest thing to note about Lava Golem is when you play it, you're not going to be able to normal summon on the turn, but that's not the end of the world. We have lots of ways to special summon, Assault Albert special summons, Morningstar can special summon, Knuckle Sword, and as long as we can get 2 of those warrior type monsters up on there, we're going to still be able to OTK. And so, we could be playing Kaijus here, but I find myself often needing to tribute off multiple monsters from one card just to gain advantage, and because there's usually more than one problematic monster on a board, that I am playing Lava Golem. And that is it for the monsters. Next up for our spells, I am playing 3 copies of Heroic Envoy. Heroic Envoy is a pretty good spell for this deck. It is our main searcher here. We can add a heroic monster from the deck to our hand, and if our life points are 500 or less, we can banish this card from our graveyard to then target a heroic card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So that's pretty cool. Like I said, we're going to be getting 500 or less, so we're going to be using that effect. Now we can only use each effect of this card once per turn, but that's fine. This card can just get us whatever heroic we need to get into our big Xyz payoff. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Heroic Chance. Heroic Chance here targets a face-up heroic monster you control, and this turn double its attack, but it cannot attack your opponent directly. That's fine. This card is the way that we can enable our OTK to OTK through an opponent's monster. We want to play this on our big heroic champion and double its attack and make use of it there. Now we can only activate 1 of this per turn, but that's fine. That's all we're going to need. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army. Reinforcement of the Army, of course, just simply searches us a warrior-type monster from our decks. That's going to get us whoever we need. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is just a nice little extender to pull a monster out from our graveyard, special summon it back so that we can make more Xyz with it. Pretty cool. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Twin Twister. Twin Twister, of course, discards a card from our hand and then target up to 2 spell or trap cards. We're going second a lot, and we don't want to be hindered by pesky back row. So we're going to pop some problematic back row so that we can hit through it. Not a bad choice. Likewise, we're also playing our 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. It does a similar thing, but for less cost, and wipes the whole back row board, and that is pretty sweet. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Raigeki. Raigeki, of course, destroys all monsters our opponent controls. That's pretty nice, because even if they don't have a monster, we can still OTK, and we want to get, we want to bait out negates, and it's just a good card to have. Raigeki to eat through an opponent's board. Likewise, I'm also playing 1 copy of Dark Hole. There's no really benefit to destroying our monsters, so I'll probably just replace this with a 3rd copy of Raigeki when I dig it up. But if you don't have Raigeki, Dark Hole is a perfectly good option that you can be playing. Next, I'm also playing Pot of Extravagance. A little risky in this deck because we need our extra deck, but we just max out at 3 copies of the main ones we're going to need, which is the Heroic Champion cards. We lock ourselves out of a lot of other extra deck monsters anyway, and as long as we have 1 Clavidosh, we'll be able to succeed. We're just going to banish 6 extra deck cards randomly to draw 2 cards. That drawing 2 is just so useful. I can't pass it up. You could play Desires in this spot if you so choose. And that is it for the spells. Next up, we're playing some trap cards. I'm only playing 2 trap cards, and that's 2 copies of Rivalry of the Warlords. Rivalry of the Warlords is a good option for this deck if we have to go first or want to add to a first turn board while we are helping set up. It just makes it so that each player can only control one type of monster. Luckily, all our Heroic Challenger monsters and the Heroic Champion XZs are all warrior type monsters, so we're not going to be hindered by that, and some matchups will definitely get hindered by that, especially if we give our opponent Lava Golem and then flip it up so that they are stuck into Fiends, stuck with their Lava Golem. That's pretty nice, and we'll definitely make use of that. Just a good little card to have in here just in case. And that is it for the trap cards. Going into our extra deck, I am playing 3 copies of Heroic Champion Clave Salish. This is our big boss monster payoff that will win us the game most of the time. It requires 2 level 4 monsters. Your opponent can't target monsters for attacks except this one. Now the rest of these effects we can only use once per turn, but that includes that we can pay life points so that we only have 500 left, and at the start of the battle phase, double the attack of one monster you control. So what's pretty nice is if we played Heroic Chance on this card, it's going to be doubled to 5,000 already, and then this effect will double that even further to 10,000. 10,000 attack is enough to OTK through just about any attack position monster, but in case we can't, it also has this effect that when an attack is declared involving your opponent's monster, you can attach a material from this card to target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and this card gains attack equal to the attack of that monster. So an honest effect, and pretty much guarantees that we're doing 10,000 damage when attacking an attack position monster, which will OTK pretty much any opponent who hasn't gained any life for any reason. And that's the main way we win here. Next, we're playing 3 copies of the next Heroic Champion, Jargrapier, which is 2 level 1 monsters, so this is the main guy our level 1s is going to make. Now, of course, the first time each warrior monster you control would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed, which is pretty nice. Good card to leave on our board turn 1. If, we need to survive some attacks and wait for a follow-up turn to make our play. And of course, the rest of these effects we can only use once per turn. We can attach 2 materials from this card to target a level / rank 4 warrior monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So that's pretty cool. Gets us a new heroic out on the board to make more extra deck monsters. And of course, if you do, this card gains attack equal to the attack of the original attack of that monster you picked. When an attack is declared involving your opponent's monster, you can gain life points equal to half its attack. So that's pretty nice. Gives you some extra life to work with. Maybe survive an OTK. And we'll take that. So a good option to have in the extra deck for sure. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Heroic Champion Excalibur. Excalibur is a pretty cool card here. Once per turn, you can detach 2 materials from this card. This card's attack becomes double its original attack until your opponent's next end phase. So that turns this 2,000 attack monster into a 4,000 attack monster. And of course, what's nice is if we use that effect and it's 4,000 attack, then we can play Heroic Chance and double its attack to make an 8,000 attack monster. Now, of course, it can't attack directly this turn, but it is possible that if we nuke our opponent's board, we can get a nice 4,000 poke into the face. And if we summon 2 of these, 2 4,000s is 8,000. That's enough to be able to OTK an opponent. Just a good option to have. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Heroic Champion Godiva. I might bop this one up to 3, which is nice. Which is 2 level 4 warrior type monsters to make, and then once per turn, when a level 4 or lower monster is special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, except during the damage step, you can detach a material from this and destroy it. So a nice card to have on your turn 1 board. Each one is each one can only be used once per turn, but if you have, it's in a hard once per turn, so if you have 2 Gandivas, you're going to get 2 pops of special summon level 4 lower monsters, which covers a lot of decks and just slows an opponent down, which is all you need to do is just slow them down enough that you don't get destroyed, and you can OTK them on your next turn. Stepping outside of the Heroic Champion XZs, I'm playing 1 copy of Blade Armor Ninja. 2 level 4 warrior monsters. Once per turn, detach a material, target a face-up ninja monster, mainly itself, and that card can attack twice this turn. So it's 2,200. That's a nice way to get 4,400 damage in. Good tool for helping out in OTK. Next, I'm playing one Tornado Dragon. Just requires 2 level 4s, and on a quick effect during either player's turn, you can detach a material to pop a spell or trap card. Good option to have. Next, I'm playing a Castel, the Sky Blaster Musketeer. 2 level 4s. Mainly, we can detach 2 materials to target a face-up card and shuffle it into the deck. Nice little bit of removal. Got 1 copy of Baguska, the terribly tired Tapir. 2 level 4 monsters. And if we special summon this guy in defense, he's basically a skill drain on legs. All other monsters on the field are turned to defense, and defense position monsters can't activate their effect. So it's a good thing to throw on a turn 1 board and hopefully keep our opponents slowed down enough that they're not going to be able to do anything. And last, just a good option to have is the 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. This is a pretty sweet monster that when our Xyz monster attacks, after it is attacked, we can overlay Divine Arsenal Zeus onto it. And then, of course, once per turn during either player's turn, we can detach 2 materials from this to send all other cards on the field to the graveyard. So just a very good disruption tool to have. Something good to go into, just a good card to round out the extra deck. And that is it for the deck. So that is it for my Heroic Challenger deck. Like I said, very fun OTK deck. I love decks that use the battle phase, and I like decks that have really big attack monsters, and the Heroic Challenger definitely checks those boxes. It's a pretty good, affordable deck to just have to play in a casual setting. So if you like this kind of thing, definitely worth giving it a try. It's dirt cheap to build in a TCG. And I've had a lot of fun playing it, whether it's in here or Master Duel. So thanks for checking out this deck profile. Love to know what you're doing with Heroic Challenger, and I'll catch you all in the next one.